It's that time again. It's Baggy Hi-Fi time. Welcome once again to Baggy Hi-Fi, this channel devoted to record collecting and the vinyl community. This video this time round is a contest entry to Bill from the Vinylverse over in the USA. It's a great channel, and he's running this contest at the moment in celebration for his 2 years anniversary being posting videos in the vinyl community on YouTube. And he also has I think well over 700 subscriptions, so his channel's really grown, and he's a really sound fellow. He's into prog and jazz in a big way, and can't mention Bill without mentioning Genesis, because he's just a big super fan of Genesis. So his contest entry, his contest that he's running is a really simple one. So I thought I'd get involved with this one. Just 4 questions. So here I am chipping in for Bill's contest. So the first question that Bill has put in this contest for vinyl community members to answer is, how did you discover the vinyl community and when did you make your first video? Well, probably like millions of people, I do waste quite a lot of time mooching around on YouTube, and it's a great way to check out music before you buy a record or a CD, and also to find out about more kind of obscure music, which is bound to be there somewhere lurking in the YouTube universe. Because in the past we had to find out about new bands or records that are worth investigating. We had to rely on the music papers, and we still to a certain extent do, or on friends' recommendations. I remember when I was a teenager, you know, you go around to your friend's house and he or she would show you a record that he bought, and that would maybe spur you on to buying that record. And I suppose the vinyl community is similar, really, because it's very simple. It's people showing their records in videos. I did mention this to someone, and he said that sounds like the most boring thing I could ever think of. But you know, for some of us, it's really fascinating. So yeah, I used to tune into YouTube and look for music that I was interested in. And believe it or not, you might not think of me very much as a metalhead, and I'm not. But I am into music which pushes the boundaries, either experimental or extreme music. And I'm quite a big fan of black metal, you'd be surprised to hear. And really some of the releases on in the black metal genre are very, very obscure. They're sometimes only released in you know, tiny micro labels, or self-released in, you know, numbers of 100 or 300. And so the way of finding out about this kind of music, YouTube was a great way of doing that. So that was one of the ways in which I first discovered people talking about records on YouTube. And I remember watching, I still watch him now, a guy called in the USA called Brain Smasher, and he talks about lots of extreme metal and lots of noise records and CDs. So I also probably my main tastes in music are psych and garage and prog and psych pop. So I in looking on YouTube came across Dead Wax 66. Talks about a lot of garage records and plays them, and psychedelic records. Vinyl Richie talks quite a bit about punk, but also a fair bit of psych as well. The Sea of Tranquility, that's a station that has lots and lots of subscribers, and the guy on there, Steve, I think he's called, certainly has the gift of the gab, and talks a lot about a lot of prog releases as well. And then in Sweden I came across Sublime Media. He has an amazing prog and psych collection. So I found it was really interesting to actually watch people talk about their records. I was getting more into jazz as well, and found Julius Jabbar's channel really informative. It's very enthusiastic, very eloquent about jazz and other musics as well. The Jazz Shepherd, that was a channel I discovered which is purely devoted to jazz, very, very knowledgeable. Ken Mikulev as well, in the States. And I'm quite interested in 20th century classical music as well, so I found my haven there on the Sounds Strange channel. Rob, who's an Irishman who lives in Spain, and that is a wonderful channel. Often talking about music which I've never heard, but I think that's again one of the pluses of the vinyl community on YouTube, to discover new music and investigate it yourself. So I discovered that the vinyl community has some presenters, some channel runners, if you like. They had a big following, and rightly so. Norman Masloff, a very urbane fellow who lives in Seattle. Obviously, he's had a career in music business and in photography as well. So he's really good at talking about kind of the image of records and photos, as well as having a great collection there. And Steve Carson, who presents regular postings, and his enthusiasm is so infectious. He just seems such a nice guy. So watching these people, they almost seem to become almost friends, even though I wasn't really at that time communicating with them. So at that point I realised that the vinyl community was a thing. I've talked a lot about here now about people in the USA and Europe, but I began to discover UK VC members like Psych in the Valleys. That's a great channel. James Griffiths posts an awful lot. He's very, very intelligent comments on music, very interesting. John Bellamy, likewise, again into quite a lot of prog and has very relaxed style. So you kind of get, I used to start to get to look forward to people's posts, and then started to subscribe myself. I didn't really think about making my own videos, but I guess it's taken up so much more time watching vinyl community videos rather than watching regular TV. I don't really watch that much TV anyway, but I can watch YouTube on my TV, so I found that it was all of my spare time. When I might have been watching TV, I was instead watching vinyl community videos. So I thought I'd have a go. I thought it can't be too difficult to upload a video onto YouTube. And in about last September, the first video I made was after being on holiday. I went to visit my sister, one of my sisters in the East Midlands, and then I called in to see a friend, Michael, in Nottingham, and we went record shopping, and there's lots of record shops there. So the first couple of VC videos I made were just sort of travelogues, really, which I thought would be a fun thing to do. And I wasn't really posting very regularly at that time. It just seems to be in more recent months that I've been really getting into it, and that it's sort of got a hold on me. And then once I started communicating with other VC members, then those friendships hopefully are growing. I think we all have friends who are into similar kinds of music as we are, and it's always interesting to swap notes about albums. But the vinyl community makes that a bigger thing. It means that you can be in touch with people all over the world. So I'm currently enjoying that, and thanks to all those people who do comment, and it's enjoyable to comment back. So the next question is, show an LP or two that you picked up from seeing in a VC video which you weren't familiar with before. We're kind of going back a few months now, or even about a year. I mentioned those metal channels that I was watching, and in particular Brain Smasher, and he was talking about this band, American band called Obsequiae. They sounded very interesting to me. I would never have known about Obsequiae if not for that video. And here's one of their records. This is the the aria of Vernal Tombs. They've had another album since then, but lovely sleeve design, which is on all of their records. I think they made 3 albums now. They are ancient or very early photographs of ruins, which they've colorized in a very, very tasteful fashion. So yeah, I wouldn't have known about Obsequiae if not for the VC. There's the in the sleeve, so I must get their newest album. And as for jazz, I mean, I did have already mentioned that the VC is very useful for finding out a bit more about jazz and things to explore. I think it was probably Sherv over at Julius Jabbar channel, which he was talking about Gratian Moncur. I've shown this album before, so I bought this album and it's very, very good. And I asked Sherv recently whether Gratian has made many other albums under his leadership. He's a trombonist, and he mentioned this one, Some Other Stuff, which is probably even better than this one, Evolution. I only have it on CD so far, but I hope to find a vinyl copy of that. So that was thanks to the VC. And then also very good channel run by Rob Eisen in the Midlands. He's currently taking a break, but we're looking forward to him posting again. I think he showed this one, which is The World of Cat Stevens. I'm not so keen on Cat Stevens' really well-known 70s and 80s. I think it was maybe mainly the 70s output. I just find it a bit middle of the road, but I do very much like his early recordings from the late 60s. There's much more pop tunes like Matthew and Son and Here Comes My Baby. So he showed this this compilation of his of the early Cat Stevens records. So after I saw Rob Eisen show that, I went out and tracked down a copy of that, and I'm very pleased to have that one too. Okay, Bills. Third question is, pick a favourite album and say why you love it. I'm going to cheat slightly. I'm going to pick 3 albums, one each from a particular musical style. So for prog, I would choose From the Witchwood by the Strawbs from 1971. This lovely atmospheric sleeve. At this time, Rick Wakeman was still in the Strawbs, and they were making lovely folky, proggy early 70s music. So one of my favourites, From the Witchwood by the Strawbs. And in jazz, this album was my first introduction to one of my favourite jazz artists, Sun Ra, and this came out 1989. I think I bought it in the 1990s, and this one is Out There a Minute, and it's this record comprises Sun Ra's personal selection of rare orchestra recordings from the late 60s, and very accessible. Sun Ra plays his Roxy chord, his kind of clavichord type keyboard instrument in this, and it's pretty groovy. So that's Out There a Minute by Sun Ra, one of my favourite albums. Big fan of English and British psych, and one of the greatest bands in that genre were Kaleidoscope, the UK Kaleidoscope, led by Peter Daltrey. I think they were the equal of Syd Barrett's Pink Floyd, and this is their first album, Tangerine Dream, which includes classics like Flight from Ashia and Nellie Goodrich, beautiful pastoral UK pop psych. Right, so the next question is do some shout outs to Vinyl Community Challenge channels that you enjoy. Well, I've already mentioned quite a few, so all of the ones I've mentioned are favourites, but I'll mention a few more. Worldwide, I really enjoy James Buttery in New Zealand. I think he's taking a break, sadly, but he's been doing some 5 albums by certain artists in 5 minutes, which I've been enjoying. He did one on Faust, did one on Neil Young. Vinyl Douche in the States as well. He has a really relaxed style. He's offering food as well on his channel. He talks about quite a lot of interesting indie and recent sort of 90s to the present day music. Grandma's Handbag, hello to Dean over there in Australia. Wonderful channel. Very much enjoyed his top 100 that he did. Chris Profe, Musically Obsessed, quite a new channel, but very engaging, very enthusiastic, very eclectic. At times he plays his own guitar and does some singing. Comic Remmer, over in the States there, lovely fellow. I entered his contest not long ago as he was looking for positive vibes in these difficult times and choosing some music with positive vibes, so I enjoyed doing that. Over in the UK, Alan, Static Traveller, excellent channel there, quite a lot of prog spoken about. Richard McCook over in Northern Ireland, very enjoyable channel. I always enjoy when there's a new video by Richard, and there's a lot of list making and ranking albums and singles. Big Bowie fan. A new one that I've just recently started watching and enjoying very much is Graham over at Cracking Vinyl. He's currently doing a top 100 list, which is fascinating. He did a very good overview of My Bloody Valentine. He's obviously a big fan. Another fairly new channel which I always enjoy, and he's putting out quite a lot of videos at the moment during the lockdown, is Vinyl Orchard. Very much a lot of guitar music he talks about, a lot of 70s rock music, but that's a good one. Rob Walker, bit of a veteran on the vinyl community scene from Manchester. Very eclectic tastes, very entertaining. His videos can be quite long, but they're always very entertaining. He did a rundown recently of Manchester bands. And I must mention also Roswell Ryan, big prog fan, King Crimson fan, Canterbury music scene fan. He does some interesting videos as well. And there are many more. And sorry if I haven't mentioned any that I do communicate with or watch, but I'll mention you next time. Finally, a bonus question. Bill from the Vinylverse has put this question. I mentioned that he's a big Genesis fan. He says, what do you think is Bill's favourite studio album by the trio lineup of Genesis? And what do you think is Bill's favourite song on that LP? Well, I think, probably completely wrong, that that's his favourite album by the trio version of Genesis, and then there were three. And I think his favourite track on this album is Deep in the Motherlode, Mike Rutherford song. Probably completely wrong. Anyway, so thank you, Bill, for thinking of this contest. I do recommend that you do watch Bill's channel, the Vinylverse. He did an interesting rundown of his recent purchases, which he's bought recently online, of course, seeing as we can't get to record shops at the moment. So I'm going to sign out now. See you next time around. Thanks everyone for your comments. Thanks for your subscriptions. Bye for now.